These are my notes from the Berkshire Hathaway 2004 meeting, some points that I thought were worth writing down that were practical, useful for investing. Warren said, there's a danger in projecting out really high growth rates. 15% is high, 10% is more realistic, but you can't project it too far forward. Difficult math is actually a disadvantage in business. Simple math is all you need. On mistakes, their mistakes: 1 is not buying at all, 2, not buying enough just because the price was a little higher than one he'd anchored himself to. He should have bought more at a higher price as he was buying into it, said Warren. Anything can happen in financial markets, and the only way smart people can get clobbered really is through leverage. Leverage is the one thing that can prevent you from playing out your hand. If you have no leverage, you can keep holding and eventually play your hand. A company, this is on dividends. A company that expects to regularly earn more than it can profitably employ in its business should be paying out dividends, like See's Candy, approaching a 100% payout. If our stock was not underpriced and not cheap enough to do share buybacks, and we found no place to use the cash, we should consider a dividend. Buffett later said Progressive Insurance is very competitive. Then he said, Buffett says he got influenced by both Phil Fisher and Charlie Munger about the Fisher ideas of buying good businesses. There is no formula that applies across all industries or businesses. ROE, or return on equity, for example. If you pay too much for the business, the person who runs it is going to get a lousy return on your equity. They may get a good return on the tangible assets employed in the business, but your purchase price may defeat them in terms of earning good returns. Some businesses don't need any extra cash, can have a lousy manager and still have a good ROE. Some need lots of capital, and even a genius can only get an ROE of 8%. On basic advice for life, he said, Charlie, I think this was Charlie Munger. No, this was Buffett. Warren Buffett said, people underestimate until they get older just how important habits are and how difficult they are to change when you're 45 or 50, and how important it is that you form the right ones when you're young. Charlie said, avoid doing the really dumb stuff. There's a lot of things that take people down: experimenting with cocaine, racing through train crossings, getting AIDS. You give them a wide berth, and then you want to develop good character and good mental habits, and you want to learn from your mistakes, every single one as you go along. It's pretty obvious, isn't it? Then Warren said, if I could give only one piece of advice, it's don't get in debt. The game plays a lot easier if you're a little bit ahead of the game than if you're behind the game. Ben Franklin said that long ago in better terms. Charlie said, and of course you particularly want to avoid evil or seriously irrational people, particularly if they are attractive members of the opposite sex. That can get you in a lot of trouble. Really, the only way a smart person who's reasonably disciplined in how they look at investments can get in trouble is through leverage. If somebody else can pull the plug on you during the worst moment of some kind of general financial disaster, you then go broke. But absent leverage and absent just going crazy in terms of valuations on things, the world won't hurt over time in securities. I mean, you won't be subject to the financial cataclysms. They don't need to do you in. If you have any more money during periods like that, you buy. Okay, next are the notes from the 2005 Berkshire Hathaway meeting. I tell students that what we're looking for is 1, intelligence, 2, energy, and 3, integrity. And if they don't have the last, the first 2 will kill you. If you hire somebody without integrity, you really want them to be dumb and lazy. The last thing you want is for them to be smart and energetic, said Warren. You need temperament and a framework, which I got from Ben Graham, not more than a 125 IQ in intelligence. This is a comment on stupid acquisitions by CEOs who don't understand investing. He said, I will have friends that are CEOs of companies, and they'll have somebody else handle their money. If you say to them, should you buy Coca-Cola or Gillette or something like that, they'll say, that's much too tough. I don't understand that sort of thing. What do I know about investing? And then some investment banker will walk in the next day with the idea that they buy a $3 billion company, which is just buying a lot of shares of stock of one company. And they'll run through some little 2-hour presentation and turn it over to a strategic planning group, and then think that they are then the one that should make that decision as to whether to buy multi-billion-dollar businesses when they really don't feel they're qualified to make $10,000 decisions with their own money. It's extraordinary what you see in corporate America in the acquisition activity. It's like making sausages and laws, best unobserved, said Buffett. This is unprecedented, the amount of highly intelligent people trying to get rich buying and selling pieces of paper. The future consequences will be bad. It reminds me of Sodom and Gomorrah, said Charlie Munger, but with a published account. Frenzies of envy and invitation feeding on itself. It has happened in the past that there came bad consequences. Don't borrow. I just didn't want to borrow any significant amount of money. There's no reason to use borrowed money, even when we started with only $10,000. We're living fine. We were living fine when I had $10,000, and the idea that you risk what you need and is important for something that you don't need and is unimportant is just craziness. And we try to run Berkshire that way. It's very difficult to say who is a great business manager or CEO without a track record. Warren always goes by track record. We've never done a big asset allocation strategy. This goes against Ray Dalio's holy grail of uncorrelated asset strategy. We may go into an asset, but only because it's screaming at us as undervalued, said Warren. If a thing's not worth doing at all, it's not worth doing well, said Charlie Munger. On asset allocation, meaning don't worry about it. The best business to have during inflation is one that retains its earning power in real dollars without commensurate investment to, in effect, fund the inflation-produced nominal growth. So this is how to deal with inflation. The worst kind of business is where you have to keep putting more and more money into a lousy business. In effect, the airlines have been hurt by inflation over the last 40 years because now they have to put a whole lot of money into a lousy investment, which is a plane, compared to 30 or 40 years ago, and they have to stay in the game. They have to keep buying new planes, which cost far more now, and the returns continue to be inadequate. So the best protection is a very good business that does not require big capital investment, said Warren. He gives the example of a doctor or lawyer who doesn't have to keep reinvesting in his education. He already bought his degree. Public utilities cost a lot more money to maintain CapEx now in dollar terms than it would have 30 years ago. You'd have to keep putting more and more money into a public utility, and you better hope that the rate of return allowed is commensurate in times of high inflation, the same way that it might have been in low inflation, with a lower rate of return. Another quote, just because it hasn't happened yet doesn't mean the problem isn't real. If you jump out of the window on the 42nd floor and you're still doing fine on the way down as you pass the 20th, it doesn't mean you don't have a serious problem. Warren Buffett said, we don't get rid of companies if they don't meet our original financial criteria unless it is a long-term problem. Business schools would say this is a mistake if we could better deploy money elsewhere, but we don't do it. It's a quirk of Berkshire. If we like the people and it doesn't require additional capital, we will stay with it. We get paid not for jumping over 7-foot bars, but for stepping over 1-foot bars. The biggest thing we have to do is decide which ones are the 1-foot bars and which ones are the 7-foot bars. So when we go to step, we don't bump into the bar. Maybe we cast out too many things as being too hard and narrow our universe, but I'd rather have the universe being interpreted as smaller than it is than being larger, said Warren. Buffett said that he named the book Poor Charlie's Almanac on making mistakes, like not buying more just because the price went up. If you make fewer of those mistakes than others, they will continue making their share the others, will continue making their share, and you'll get very rich, said Warren. Charlie said, you don't have to be perfect, or you don't have to have perfect wisdom to get very rich. All you have to do is have slightly more than other people on average over a long time.